Ronda Rousey dismantles Gina Carano in under 20 seconds. All that promotion for under 20 seconds. Smash. The rest of the card I found to be wicked fun. I enjoyed myself on that Netflix MVP inaugural card. Francis Ngannou looked tremendous. Nate Diaz didn't even look like a real fighter in there, unfortunately. Mike Perry looked phenomenal. The undercard was pretty fun. We got the UFC Apex card that took place last Saturday with Arnold Allen and Costa headlining. I want to talk about that card a bit. Some UFC announcements. The Mac is back. He's taking on Max Holloway, International Fight Week. And then this weekend's upcoming boxing card that I'm actually wicked excited about that's taking place in the pyramids of Egypt. I'll talk about that at the very end. Welcome to the Hurt Business Podcast. My name's Faris Ferrari, and let's get right into this. Miss Ronda Rousey made her return to mixed martial arts after such a long time. She fought Gina Carano, and I felt like we all kind of seen this fight playing out the way it did. I personally didn't think it'd only take 20 seconds. I thought it, maybe a round or two. Ronda hasn't fought in such a long time. And shame on me for thinking that. Knowing Ronda, knowing what she's done for all these years, I should have known that she's just going to try to get in and out as fast as possible. Most of her fights have finished in the first round and looked that dominant. So that's no surprise. Feel kind of bad if you're Gina, who is a tremendous story in her own right. She stepped away from the sport for 17 years to chase acting, and recently she lost 100 pounds, I think the stat was, in preparation to this fight. And that's something you don't do overnight. So she started a few years ago to lose the weight and get in fight shape, and all that led to last Saturday night. And even though she got submitted in 17 seconds, again, I think it's a tremendous story. The Gina Carano coming back, making a huge payday in mixed martial arts after never seeing kind of like a highlight reel or like a big moment. Like, ladies these days, they have their chance. They headline cars. They win belts. Ronda was the biggest woman of all time. She had unbelievable highlights in her career, and I felt like Gina didn't have that staple moment. Of course, this is like pre-UFC time. She was a Strike Force gal and never made it to the UFC. She dipped out of the sport before the buyout happened, and it was cool to kind of have a big moment, make a milli. The payouts got released the next day, which was cool to see. We don't see that in other martial arts, especially the UFC. Kind of have no idea what guys make, and I think that's by design. That's definitely by design. So it's cool. I think MVP is breaking a lot of standards that's kind of been set the past few years by the UFC. It's molding, it's changing, and I'll share my thoughts on overall at the very end of this recap. But yeah, MVP, I'm digging what y'all got cooking up. And I really enjoyed Ronda all promotion. It felt like Ronda was very vocal. She was sharing really vulnerable moments. She talked about going to Dana White with this fight and him turning her down essentially and saying, like, I don't think that's in the UFC's interest. And he wanted her to make the most money. And it was just a very intimate moment that I feel like people aren't going to say most times, but Ronda let us into her world in that aspect, broke that fourth wall, and I enjoyed it. Along with all the other stories, she was really vocal and continues to be about her time with the UFC, and it feels like moving forward, she's going to try to take on a promoter role. She talked about matchmaking and the fun of that and promoting with maybe Jake Paul and MVP and Nikisa. Could be the next steps. In her post-fight interview, she's retiring, saying she got to go back to cooking and making babies, which I thought that's what you've been doing the past few years. I thought you were coming back to MMA if you were fighting again. So I was a little confused by that. I'm sure she wanted to just be back in the sport. It feels like now, again, she's trying to maybe take a promoting approach to the sport, less of an athlete and maybe more of a business angle, which there's no better person than Ronda, somebody who's been there and can tell a story. She talked about that too a lot in the promotion, was that fight promoting is just telling a story. And if you're able to do that, then you can sell fights. And I think Ronda's great at that. So all that to say, if Ronda's next chapter is going to be promoting fights under MVP, I'm all in. Or if the next chapter was kind of continuing this route, it may be rematching Holly Holm under the MVP banner, I'm all in there too. I would love that actually a little bit more. Or if that fight's offered to Gina, why not? Why not? If I'm Gina, I didn't get a chance to throw my hands. I'm more a striker, Muay Thai background. I didn't get a chance to show anything. Holly Holm is a striker. She's a boxer. She's not one that's probably going to want to grapple, take you down, armbar you as a Ronda did. She's going to try to stand there and box you and kick you and do all these things. So I'd love to see a Holly Holm versus Gina if Ronda's really gone. But yeah, Ronda made 2.2 for 17 seconds of work. And that's if we're trusting that release list. That's if we're believing it. Some part of me does, like Nate Diaz 500K. I don't know. When Francis getting 1.5, which Francis definitely deserves that. But Nate Diaz not getting a little bit closer to the million mark when Gina, Francis, like these people are way beyond what he was making. I thought was a little strange. Perry, I think, also made a little bit more. Maybe he did, like, I don't know. Maybe there's a back end thing. Maybe they released just the show money. But yeah, on Netflix, big card. There was some bankroll there. Ronda getting 2.2, I see that, but I feel like it was a little bit more properly to spread throughout the rest of the guys. Mike Perry, Nate Diaz, they probably milli each guaranteed. All right, but let's talk about it. Nate's performance did not deserve a milli, but his name, star power, definitely should put him in that ballpark. But holy moly, did he look like dog shit in there. And I love Nate Diaz. I love Nick Diaz. The Diaz brothers are such a vital and crucial part of our sport, the history of our sport, and the growing. Nate got suspended for 5 years because of weed, and these days guys are smoking bud and or weed until like fight night. It's a different world these days. They were a part of major cornerstones and moments of the sport, and this is just kind of getting a little sad if we keep on letting Nate get these big fights and just getting damaged and that bloody and cut up, and it's just, what are we doing? And Mike Perry, he's a dangerous, violent guy. That dude fights. That's BKFC's top dog. There's a reason behind that. He's probably one of the most violent dudes in the entire world. And the shots he was throwing at Nate was like, God damn, those body shots where he was just winging them like he was throwing baseballs was fucking nuts. And Nate was wearing them. His body was getting ripped to shits. There was a little bit, I think MMA Guru kind of had a moment, a viral clip where he was saying that Nate shat himself at some point, and that's why the fight got announced or called. But he was getting smashed to bits. He was getting smashed, and it was stopped by the corner, I believe. It should have been stopped by the doctor. Like, at some point, the ref, at some point, you just kind of got to read the room. One guy is just annihilating while Nate Diaz is just too tough for his own good. And I love Nate, man. Again, I love the Diaz brothers, but this is just kind of getting a little sad, man. It's a little sad. And he's calling for the rematch. He said, Sacramento, let's run it back. And then maybe not fight the most violent guy, maybe fight the second most violent guy. But he didn't give us nothing. There was no moments in the fight where we thought Nate Diaz was going to turn it up and challenge Mike Perry. Like, I feel like Nate Diaz's best chance was to continue toughen it out until Perry got tired of just beating the shit out of him, and then probably, beat him to the body or submitted him, something like that was probably Nate's best bet. But Perry just dynamite, bro. Dynamite shots. And again, somebody should just tell Nate, no more, Papa. We love you. Thank you for everything you've given us. You don't need to keep taking on these beatings. You really don't. And Dustin Poirier actually came out in the post-fight. He has his own podcast now on Paramount, which is pretty cool. Him, Masvidal, and another champion, New York guy, Chris Weidman. They got the podcast on Paramount, which I really like. But DP, kind of close to this Nate Diaz situation, he had some words. Talked about how Nate didn't look really good and his timing was off. And honestly, everything that Dustin said, I agreed with. I completely agreed with. But then Nate Diaz came out and kind of was like, don't come out of retirement for me. You just did all this crying stuff, but it didn't. Dustin didn't call him out. Dustin was just like, you didn't look good, bud. Which I think we all should be able to say because we watched the fight. Now, enough on Nate because it's kind of depressing. I love Nate too much to continue kind of going about this. What would I do if I'm Mike Perry? I don't know if I'd go back to BKFC. As MVP makes a real play for MMA here, I think I would try to keep racking up big names, staying on this co-main event, main event vibe. He called out Masvidal. That'd be a sick fight. I'd tune in for that. He even was asked about the Nate Diaz fight, and he quote saying that's free money. And again, I agree. I don't give Nate a chance in that fight. Based off what we've seen in that fight, give Nate plus 1,200. And I'm still not. I'm still standing away. Anything Mike Perry does next, I'm tuning in for it, as long as it's not a Nate. I mean, I'll still watch another Nate Diaz fight because it's the two boys. But like anything Perry does, I'm tuning in. Perry has really done a really good job at being a free agent and just floating around the scene and taking the biggest paydays, boxing, BKFC, and now MMA outside the UFC, just kind of staying around and just collecting these moments is Mike Perry. And he's playing free agency, I think, better than any other mixed martial artist fighter out there. There's nobody doing it like Perry. Just getting the experience out there and just smashing everybody's. Really made himself a household name after his UFC career, outside of the UFC, and that's really uncommon. Speaking of uncommon, the big man from Cameroon, Francis Ngannou, comes back and just pieces up Philippine Lens. Just pieces him up. Just simple as that. He ate a few leg kicks early, but just calm, patient, and just bing, bing, bong, good night. And proves to be honestly one of the best heavyweights. I know Philip Lens is not like, he's not in that conversation, I believe, in terms of talent. He's not in the Ngannou ballpark, but Francis just proves like I'm still the guy. They can say what they want, they can do what they want, but I'm still that guy. And I believe Francis might be the best heavyweight in martial arts today. He might be. But also, he's actually kind of sneaky old. He's almost 40. I didn't realize that until they were promoting it on the fight. And I'm like, wow. I don't know how many more years we got of big Ngannou. So we should really cherish him while he's here. Big fights need to be made. And really good move by MVP, inviting Jon Jones to the mix, putting him on a broadcast table, letting him share his opinion on a few things. But then when Francis got his mic moment, the camera was ready on Jon Jones. It's just awesome work by MVP. Just really stealing the moment, and Netflix production. It just was all great. It was all awesome. We got to see Jon Jones's live reaction and even a little bit of an exchange. And Francis, said what he always said. That fight is always going to be there as long as Big Jon Jones can possibly get out of that UFC contract. That fight will always be there. And also in that post-fight interview, he had a little bit of a weird moment with Jake Paul. They kind of looked at each other, and Francis had his words. He's called him immature or whatever, saying he doesn't run the business. That's more Nikisa, which sure that's the case. Jake is just a name, kind of pulling behind it, and Nikisa's probably in the background doing all the logistical legal work. So be. But I just thought that was wicked weird. One of the biggest names on the card, Jake, you just let him have his moment. Don't talk shit saying I'll box you. You don't want that smoke. Especially seeing that beating in live. I don't know. Brave by Jake. Great on you. I mean, the guy did fight Anthony Joshua, but Francis Ngannou is just another behemoth. I don't think you want to get your jaw broke again, bro. All that, I don't know. It's a weird one. And Mike and him also had the moment, Jake, in that in Mike's post-fight interview. And Mike was respectful. Mike was cool. Mike wasn't like Francis, like, fuck you, bud. Like, you're a kid. Now Mike was like, now we did it in boxing. You did great. Now let's do it in MMA. And it was a good play by Mike. It was a good play. It was a good play because if Jake ever did go down that route, I don't know if he's fighting Mike Perry. in a sense, because Mike Perry throws just unbelievably big shots. But also, Mike Perry wouldn't be a guy to shoot a takedown, so that might be a good fight for Jake Paul if he does transition to this side. After seeing Nate's performance, I'm sure he would love that Nate fight. Nate does not shoot takedowns. Nate's just gonna box with you until he drops you and then hopes to choke you out. That's kind of his MO. Anyways, back to Francis. In his post-fight press conference, he was asked about Dana's announcement the same time that he was making his walkout, and he had the best response. What the fuck am I supposed to do about it? It's just the big man getting on. Which, Francis, we love you, man. I'm excited to see what's next. I love that he is another one of these free agents who's just playing everything. He's just doing whatever's available to him. He boxed a few times. He fought in PFL, got that title. Now he's fighting for MVP. He's just flowing. And I like him at MVP. I don't know if he's a Jake Paul guy, but it's a huge MMA stage. PFL is not really doing much. There's not really big heavyweights versus I feel like MVP will make plays to sign guys like Cain Velasquez if he ever wants to fight again, or John Jones, say he becomes available as a free agent. I think MVP has both the capital and probably the resources to make those a real thing, especially with Netflix behind them, bro. That's the one. That's the one. I hope Francis stays home, and then home is MVP if they continue on, which it sounds like they will. All right, that was the three-headed snake. That was the three main events. I was kind of wondering how 3 5-rounders would play out. Collectively, these fights did not last more than 4 rounds as a whole. I mean, Ronda did have a 10-second fight, but yeah, they barely touched over 3 rounds collective as a three-headed snake main event thing. And I was kind of wondering, they're all 3 big names. They all 3 could be headline bouts in their own respects. Why are they putting them together? And it turned out to be awesome. Fast pace, good fights, big names. Nate Diaz got smashed, which we hate to see, but it turned out really well. Saladin Paranese had a super successful USA debut. I'll be honest, I was not too hip to him. I'm not the biggest kickboxing follower. I don't really follow KSW or really Glory. Honestly, I need to do a little bit better. I need to kind of lock in. And Muay Thai, such good sports. I need to do a little bit better with them, especially on the pod. I want to talk to more of fighters from those disciplines. So that's on me to get that in place. But Saladin came to the USA as a highly stouted Frenchman, kickboxer, KSW champion, multiple divisions. They promoted him wicked well, said that this is the biggest USA debut nearly of all time. It just made us all really excited. And then he smashed his opponent, Kenny Cross, a US-man, in the first round to body shots. And it was cool. It was cool. I'm in. He called out Mike Perry afterwards, which if Perry would give him the opportunity, that's kind of a sick fight. But whatever Saladin does next, I do know his name now, and I got you. I am wondering what's his ceiling to at lightweight. I feel like there's so many killers at that division in the world that we'll see how he fares. Let's see how he fares. But he's not Boris, because Boris is a American. If you know, Boris Becker, baby. Opening that main card, Robelis absolutely melted Junior Dos Santos on the feet. And Junior was honestly knocked out with the first shot. And then Robelis said, you're still standing here. Here's 3 more for you. And it was all flush on the chin, just pop, pop, bink. Killed him. Good night. And I feel like Junior definitely, I didn't read up on kind of what happened afterwards, but it seemed watching him recover, his jaw had to have been broke. Yeah, that shit must have been smashed. And Robelis called out Francis Ngannou, which it's a huge heavyweight, a guy who's not going to shoot takedowns. It's perfect for Francis. MVP needs to make that fight happen, headline it, fill up the undercard with fights just like this, and let's do it all over again. Because honestly, I really enjoyed this card. The undercard was also pretty fun. A little bit of controversial bouts. The Adriano Morales fight and the Phumi fight ended in the 3rd round at the very last second by rear naked choke, and that one was wicked controversial. because one camp thought that they held on to the choke after the bell, which kind of looked like they did. The ref was fighting hands. Adriano kept on holding the choke, and by the time the hands got unwrapped, Phumi's completely slumped, like completely choked out, and they called it a submission choke whenever it was turning out to be a decision going the other way. And I was probably like most excited for this fight. I knew Adriano from, of course, the Mighty Mouse bouts at One Championship, but then he was making this transition to the USA, of course, a Brazilian dude fighting now in the US side. Originally, when this card was announced, he was fighting Mohammed Makayev, which I was so excited for. I was wicked excited for that fight. That was the one that I was like, this might be the best fight on the entire card, but never came to fruition. I think Makayev had visa issues, couldn't make it to the States. So the fight played out the way it did. Sucks if I'm Phumi, but as an Adriano, can we make this Morales fight? I'm sorry, can we make this Adriano and Makayev fight? MVP, let's make that one happen and go wherever Makayev can find a visa. Wherever you can make this fight happen, wherever common ground is, please. Adriano Morales versus Muhammad Makayev would be a banger fight. Former Bellator champion Jason Jackson defended his name, getting the left hook KO in that first round. Yeah, I don't really need to talk about much of this on the rest of the undercard. It was exactly what it needed to be. I enjoyed the entire card. I think the sport needed a good shakeup. The UFC needs some competition. Their first card, Dana's announcing the Conor return, giving us International Fight Week the same night as this. It clearly puts a fire under the UFC. There's some spotlight now on some conversations that we've been having, that questions we've been asking the UFC. MVP's answering them. They're telling us exactly what guys are making. Now, granted, we always got to take that information with a grain of salt. It could completely be bullshit, but the point is we have numbers to work with. Versus the UFC has never been that. There's never been, all right, we got this guy for 5 fights for X. They never told us what the numbers were. So the MVP guys, they're definitely changing up things that we've been asking for changes in. They're paying people a lot more. Guys on this undercard were making 40, 50K, and in the UFC equivalent would be like 12 and 12. So you're telling me they would only make half of that if they won their bout. Say they lost, now making a quarter what those MVP guys are making. It's a good shakeup, especially at a time when the UFC has had the sport in such a chokehold, where the UFC has almost turned into the sport. They're the standard. Casuals don't know what MMA is. They know UFC. You know, they don't know that UFC is just an organization that holds fights versus MMA is the sport itself. They couldn't distinguish the difference. The UFC has taken over. They are the sport almost. And now with MVP in the mix, good competition is a thing, puts a lot of power in the fighter's hands. So that's ultimately everything that I want. And I hope I'm speaking for a lot of us whenever I say that. We should want fighters and people who are competing in our sport to A, reap all the benefits or most of them, and B, be able to do as they wish. You're telling me I only have to fight this guy that you're giving me? I gotta wait now for the next time, and then the next time, and then now what? I don't fight for a whole year as a UFC member versus I'm Mike Perry. I'm hearing out what BKFC got to say. Nah, I'm not really feeling that. Now let me go see what MVP's saying. I'm not really feeling that. Let's go see what Bogson's saying. That's the power. So yeah. All right. Enough on that. MVP, good job. Also, last Saturday night was that UFC Apex card headlined by Arnold Allen and Melquizael. I'm gonna just call him by his last name because honestly, fam, I can't do it. I'm sorry. Costa versus Allen this past weekend was honestly a pretty good pretty good main card. I really enjoyed those top 3 fights, especially. I'm going to share my thoughts real quick. Arnold Allen, just another scrappy, gritty win. He had Costa clipped in that first round, and it felt like he didn't let up the entire time. Costa would try, throw leg kicks. He would try to get things rolling, but those kicks that have been murdering people during his come up did not work on Arnold Allen. And Arnold just displayed levels to the game. He showed that, I've been here in this top 5, 10, 15 for damn near a decade. You're not just walking up in here, bro. You're not. It's not sweet on this side of town. And Costa, I thought, had all the makings, and he had all the skills and was equipped to give Allen a good run for his money, which he did. But I found it to be a complete 4-1 Arnold Allen if I was scoring the fight, which I don't really know the scorecards, but all that to say, Arnold Allen is the man. Is the man. A little bit of a questionable post-fight interview, too. I mean, the guy just fought for 25 straight minutes, so no knock to him. But I had to watch it a few times to kind of understand what he was saying. And that's not because of his accent, because I listen to his interviews all the time, and I have no problem understanding the things he says. But, again, must have just fought for 25 minutes. His brain was all over the place. And he just felt like he was just blah, 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 blah. But he did call out former foe Movsar Evloev. I'm having a really rough day today with the names game. I'm trying. But he called out Movsar Evloev again, which I don't know if that fight's gonna happen for you, Arnold Allen. But you aim at the stars, and wherever you land is wherever you land. And I think now that you fought backwards, though, now that you defended your spot, you fight forward. That's how the game works. So if I'm Arnold Allen, I'm going to recover. I'm going to stay ready and possibly get a short notice call up. Maybe, I don't know, fight somebody in that top 5. I like to see Arnold Allen up there again because I think he's one of those tough dudes. Maybe that Leroy Murphy fight finally happens. I don't know. Gene Silva, we already seen that. Yair Rodriguez is, I guess, an option. Aljo. Although I think I kind of see how the Aljo one would play out. A little bit like the Movsar one did. But Aljo looked real dominant in his last one. So I'm sure Aljo's also meaning to fight upwards. But yeah, big win for Arnold Allen. I don't think Costa lost a ton of stock, though. I think he fought his ass off for 25 minutes. Had exchanges, but again, Arnold was just like, there's levels to this, papacito. Dooho Choi, Daniel Santos in that co-main event. What a banger fight this was. Low-key, Daniel Santos came out in that first round, foot on the fucking gas, just accelerating the entire time, let it all hang out, and maybe a little bit too much, if I'm being honest. Dooho Choi, just as tough as nails, hung through there, just ate everything Daniel had for him. I don't remember him getting dropped or really stunned. He was just standing in his guard, tough as nails. And then eventually the second round came around, and Daniel maybe got a little gassed. And Dooho Choi, just beautiful combinations to the body. Threw the first one, and then just set up the second one and just melts Santos, just sits him down. Game over. Beautiful. Dooho Choi, of course, that's the Korean zombie camp. Love to see it. Dooho Choi, he's somehow an OG of the game, and he's still putting on just beautiful finishes. So I love the co-main event. In that fight below the co-main event was Malcolm Wellmaker and Juan Diaz. A little bit of a slow fight, if I'm being honest. We all know Wellmaker as a guy who punches big and heavy and likes to catch guys, set guys up, and just hit them with dynamite. Felt like he was playing this fight very patient. Maybe after his last one, he wasn't trying to get into a war and just an exchange-heavy fight like he did with Ethan, that last one. Maybe he was trying to be a little bit more patient, show skills, but he just never really got going. He never really did. And then the second round came around, and Juan Diaz just got a hold of his back and Wellmaker tapped, man. It's kind of a little bit sad to see, because we all know Wellmaker, again, is a guy who hits wicked hard, very talented. We know he has the makings to be the next guy, and definitely still could be, you know, few losses before he touches that top 15 on kind of this up-ish scale. Like he could turn that around in 5 fights and just be fucking off to the races, which I'm sure he, you know, it's probably next for him. But yeah, if I'm Wellmaker, I'm taking a second. I'm not gonna come back then like as soon as I get an X. I'm gonna take a second. I don't know, maybe travel, see a new camp, train with some other coaches, just get a taste of something else, a little bit of a change. I don't know. I think most importantly, just take your time. You know, don't rush back into anything. I don't think this was a rush back, but momentum is a real thing. And building it doesn't happen overnight. And I don't have to be the one to tell him this. But if I'm Wellmaker, I would definitely take some time off. And if I'm coming back, it will be again in a fight that I would know I'm gonna win, because 3 losses in a row is how you find your way out, unfortunately, in the sport we're in. All right. The rest of the card consisted of honestly finishes, so I can't even be mad at it. Good UFC card. At the end, while Francis Ngannou was making his walkout, it's like Dana White timed this. It's like he knew. As soon as Francis was on the walkway coming out on that MVP card, Dana White opens his phone, gets on IG Live, and breaks the news that we've all been asking for. I feel like we've heard rumblings. I know Ariel talked about it on his show. Conor's back, and I think he's fighting Max. I think that's the fight. We know Conor wanted that White House, but he was only wanted the headlining, and that never happened. So Ngannou's walking. Dana must hate this guy more than anybody on earth. Want to see him lose and just don't watch him, watch me. That's how much Dana hates this guy. And got on the internet and talked about this fight. Conor's back. Conor's back, and he's taking on Max Holloway at 170. International Fight Week, 170. First time in Max's career going up that heavy. What do we think, boys? Because if you're asking me, I think Max is absolutely about to smash him. I think my overall gut is telling me that this fight doesn't happen. There's going to be some sort of obstacle. Something's going to happen. I hope Conor doesn't, but a bender might happen, you know, a little bit of a relapse, a little bit of a booger sugar at a club in Dublin. You know, Conor is a wild boy, and there's protocols in the UFC. There's drug tests that you got to pass. This isn't BKFC where you can just walk in all roided up, you know. So I'm a little worried that this fight doesn't happen. But in the event that it does, if both guys jump in that octagon come July 11th, I believe this fight schedule, the International Fight Week card is scheduled for. If this fight happens, Max by murderation, for sure finish. I don't see Conor shooting, so I think Max finishes him with the hands. You don't come back from 6 years off and fight somebody like Max Holloway, somebody honestly in the top 10. Max, yes, he did have a shitty last fight. He did get grapple fucked by Oliveira in his last one, but when it comes to the mitts and the fists, Conor's kicks are not going to do nothing. They're not. And I hope Conor's really taking this serious. I hope he's in Ireland or wherever in the world he chooses, taking this fight brutally serious, training every second of the day, just getting wicked ready like we know Conor to do. That's what I'm hoping for. And it's Max's opportunity to get his lick back. We know this is a rematch from their earlier days, kind of both on their upward trajectory in the sport. Young Max, young Conor. Yeah, Conor got him back then, but different times these days. Different times. They released that whole card. I'm not going to get into detail. Fun card. I think Corey's back on that card. Paddy Pimblett's back versus BDS. This is off the top of my head. I'm just remembering it. That's all I got for you off the dome. But sweet card. International Fight Week. The Mac is back. But let's hope the Mac put the sack away. The sack isn't the booger sugar. All right. Let's move on. What do we got this weekend? Unfortunately, no UFC this weekend. They're taking the weekend off. But they'll be back the following May 30th in Macau. Of course, if you're in the States, just watch out for those those watch times. I'll be back next week to kind of remind you, but the start times are like ridiculous, 4 a.m. on the East Coast. Otherwise, spin the block, catch it later in the day. Shout out Paramount for giving us that option. But yeah, that fight is Song Yadong, Figgy, again, May 30th. Pumped about that fight. It's pretty sweet undercard too. This weekend, I'm excited to talk about this. I'm pumped to watch it, but first we talk about it. Alexander Usyk got tired of fighting his heavyweight top 5. You know, these guys, he's fought them all, beat them all, some of them twice. They just keep beating the top contenders somehow. So Usyk's like, guys, this is boring for me. Bring me kickboxing's best guy. And in comes Rico Verhoeven. And to answer the call, Rico comes. And I've said this earlier in the show, I don't know the most when it comes to glory. I don't keep up with that sport. Kickboxing, all in all, is not really coming on my timeline. It's more MMA, boxing. But Rico's stepping into the other side of the world. He's stepping into the boxing ring, stepping outside of the kickboxing ring, which is an interesting transition because it's kind of similar. Distance is obviously different. You don't have the opportunity to throw kicks, but it ends there. Your hands are the same. It's like it's all boxing combinations. It's those huge gloves, same thing. Again, distance is a thing. Movement is a different thing. So there are a lot of differences, obviously, when it comes to boxing, kickboxing, but it's not going from like Muay Thai to BKFC. You know, I feel like it's a lot closer of a transition. And we know Rico has been wanting to make this transition to boxing. I think last year or something, there were some rumbles that he was going to fight Francis Ngannou. That never came to fruition. A little bit crazy, though, that the king of the heavyweights, Usyk, is like, yeah, I'll take the challenge. I'm kind of bored of what I got going on. So let's see what's up with this guy. And from what I've researched from Verhoeven, really seems like a cool dude, nice guy in interviews. He gets the reputation as a giant slayer. All the guys he's fought in glory have seen him be just huge, undefeated, scary heavyweights, and he's always answered the call. So he's a proven guy. They're not fishing out of a Dead Sea. Rico is absolutely game, and I'm not. It's tough because this isn't Tyson Fury versus Francis Ngannou. This isn't that fight. And even then, we all gave virtually Francis Ngannou almost no chance against experienced, talented heavyweight. But this is a completely different situation, completely different challenge, set of skills on both sides. And all that, I don't think Alexander Usyk is coming in heavy or anything aside from ready, game, and prepared to smash. So I'm very excited about this fight, especially this whole card, all in all. If you're asking me for a prediction, gun to my head, I give Rico virtually no chance. Usyk is the king of this sport. He's the king of this weight class, the one below it, and the one below that. And I don't know with the big win against Rico how much that does, but I don't give Rico much of a chance, unfortunately. I don't. Usyk's the man, bro. Usyk's the man. Co-main event on that card is Khamzat Chimaev and Alim Bojic. I believe that's how you pronounce it. Excuse me if I'm wrong. But both guys undefeated for a world title, super middleweight, that 68 world title, WBO. Khamzat, of course, his last fight, he beat the brakes off Berlanga, and now he's fighting another undefeated, aside from one fight that got called a draw. And I'm not even thinking about that. 29-0 Alim Belgic, and I am absolutely tuning in for this 100%. Khamzat, he came on my resume a few years ago, and I was kind of telling people earlier on that Berlanga card, earlier in that week of their Berlanga fight, just be prepared. This guy's long. He hits hard, rangy, moves fast. Berlanga might have some trouble, and trouble did he have. And Alim is another tough dude, so we'll see. We'll see. That's a sweet fight. Jack Catterall's back, WBA regular welterweight. I guess that's – wow, that belt, I believe they're fighting for a vacant title. Shakrahib Gizo Giz Giy Ga- Gayazov? Gayazov? I'm gonna go with that. Shakrahim Gayazov versus Jack Catterall. We all know Jack Catterall with his classic belts, warrior, true in the sport, and he's fighting an undefeated contender looking to be a world champion. If he's not defending, he might be defending, but I believe it is a vacant title. One of the most excited fights for me on this card is that Frank Sanchez and Richard Torres Jr. Frank Sanchez is obviously a proven heavyweight, the Cuban sensation, just big, strong, moves well, just strong, pop, pop, pop. And then on the other side of the card is Americans Rico Torres, Jr., who I've been watching since his Olympic days, and it seems like watching him through Top Rank, it's been a real challenge to find him A, good fights, and B, good fights, and C, good fights, and D, good fights. And I don't even think that's really his fault. I think guys just see what he's done so far and like, yeah, I'm staying far away from him. I'm not collecting that and probably getting slumped. And that's no knock to those people, but it can be frustrating for Richard from what I've noticed. I could be completely wrong in that aspect, but eventually you get to a spot in the sport where guys are just as tough and looking for just as much of a challenge as you are, and they're not even thinking about no. And then there comes Frank Sanchez. So I'm excited to see Richard on this next level, to see what he does against a guy like Frank Sanchez. Yeah, they're fighting for 12 rounds, championship rounds. Let's see. That's a banger. And yeah, that's all I really got standing out for me. I know watching cars like this, they're fighting in Egypt between the pyramids. So that undercard is flooded with Arabian fighters, Egyptian fighters, undefeated prospects. So I'm watching early and I'm locked in because that's all the fights that we have this weekend. So you know your boys not missing it for nothing. All right. I think that's everything. If you made it to this part of the podcast, I greatly appreciate the support. Please like, subscribe, comment. Let me know what you think. Inshallah to the moon. But yeah, follow us on Instagram at the HB Pod, TikTok. But yeah, that's all I got. Thank you for being here. I'll see you in the next one. As always, free Palestine.